These are some images from a hive that's beginning to fail, and it's early October, and it's been a great hive all through September. It's a package from California in the spring, but it gave honey, a ton of bees 2-3 weeks ago. A great laying queen, good food, good pollen reserves, everything good. And of course, opening it up, surprised to see, unfortunately, spotty brood, which classically could be a number of things. My first concern, and this is my experience last year, was Varroa, of course, and that's a big deal, and European foul brood, possibly, some other things, possibly. So started looking at it, and I decided to take this particular frame and other ones, because in fact this disease crosses to 2 or 3 other hives at least, or whatever's going on here is happening in multiple places. So I took that frame, put it under a dissecting microscope to start understanding what might go on. I have no idea, of course, and even at this end of the video I don't know. But here is a classic part of it. You'll see capped brood, which mostly is unopened, but some of it broken open or chewed open, and sometimes, and all throughout the whole particular frame is a lot of eggs, even double eggs, which suggests something else, but of course that's not what's going on. But here is a lot of nice brood and larvae. So I took 3 nice clean ones. I opened them up, and nice healthy adult larvae to become adults, all miteless, very healthy, but also found chewed open brood as well, and larvae chewed like this. So often I thought, well, that's strange, and things have been started to be chewed open. Also scale of some sorts, which could indicate foul brood, or European foul brood, maybe in this case. And so I thought, well, I should start opening up a few of these cells, and here would be a cell with nothing in it, but also started to look at some foul brood where I would find dead mites, which I think might be a case of the apivar, which is in the hive. All these frames are adjacent to apivar, and so I thought, well, that must be there. But also finding mites on a lot of brood. Here's a dead larva, adult, nearly an adult, with Varroa on it. So I started going through and under the microscope and popping these open and seeing what's going on here, in multiple different conditions, and wondering, is this Varroa? Is this something else? Is this something I need to worry about? I don't actually know, and still don't know. I'm just figuring this out. So here is a typical situation, opening up a dead larva. Looks healthy but not moving, and sure enough, there's a Varroa mite, pops right out. Not atypical. Lots of scenes like that, and no movement in the brood, which I think means that brood, that pupa is dead. The larva is dead, and inside the cell, hard to see here under this film, nothing to see. No additional mites, which is typical later. Sometimes larvae that have really gelled and become yellowy, which I think that's sort of a sign of European foul brood. So poking them out a little bit, trying to understand, is there a reason? Yep, there's a Varroa mite, just your classic thing. However, dead. I think this one was dead, often dead anyways, which suggests the apivar is working. Sometimes, I can't tell. And so I would go through a number of different cells, just spreading it out. And this is something I told myself last year to do, to start to be more active about opening up and starting to look at what is inside these cells. Often dead. There's another, that would be a dead larva. This frame, by the way, is minutes or maybe 20 minutes out of a hive. It hasn't been sitting around. So anything that's alive was alive minutes ago. Here inside that larva, with that larva is a living Varroa mite, and often I would have opened up other ones adjacent to and looking fine, and find pretty much nothing. So it's kind of no additional mites. So it's kind of a hit or miss. Sometimes the larvae are more mature, showing eyes or ocelli, and no particular form, nothing wrong with them. Other times Varroa, or other times destroyed larvae, lots of different conditions. So it's a little bit confusing. I don't actually know. I suspect this is all Varroa. But the point about this is that this is a hive that has had apivar for 30 days, and it's going on, and maybe more than that. And prior to that, in July, this is a month and a half ago, had a good dose of a standard dose, anyways, of the mite away quick strips. So it's had a pretty active mite condition, mite prevention condition. I mean, where I've been really treating these mites, or treating the mites, and still finding really high levels of mites, which is a bit, frustrating actually. So here's a dead larva as well, kind of classic all the way through. You can see there's living larvae maturing adjacent to it. There are eggs everywhere around. This is bees are bringing in pollen. Everything's normal except the bee population is way down. The queen is this year's queen, and again, a mite popping out. Classic. This is probably a frame that is 2 or 3 frames away from a apivar strip, maybe, that's been there for 30 days, and there's a living mite. I don't know, was the frame opened up recently, and or the cell opened recently by the bees, and the apivar had had time to affect the mite. I'm not sure. It seems strange, and it's still looking like here, looking deeper into the cell. Sometimes I'll see immature mites or not. This is kind of early, I think. I'm not seeing a lot of multiple mites if I have in the past. Sometimes you see 7, 8, 9 mites. But here's a classic example. I'll pull out a pupae and find this an adult female mite with 2 brood. I think the one of the upper left cell I kicked over and opening this up. I don't think she was actually there, but there's a bunch of brood and young brood, young mite brood, maturing brood there, which not 3 total, and maybe others have died by the treatment of the Varroa. Maybe others have died, or not. I don't know, but obviously alive. And here's some close-ups of that young Varroa in that hive, and it's quite horrible. So classically, and here's a Varroa just on its own, just fine. I did nothing here. She's running around the cell. I believe this. I don't know, but I believe this is a pregnant Varroa, and she is. You'll see sometimes that she's got some white things. This is her again on between 2 cells, and she's mature female mite that's been traveling throughout all the hive. I mean, throughout the cell and spinning around. I'm pretty sure I've never seen a pregnant mite, and I'm not quite sure what one would look like. But this one is much fatter than a typical mite. She's although she's standing still here, in a second she'll flip around, and you'll see a really fat white membrane, as if she's really ready to lay some eggs here. I don't know if that's the case or not, but it's not atypical to see a living mite like this in the cells I was opening. So even though apivar was there, they were alive. Flipping over this mite here she goes, and you'll see that white membrane I mentioned, and there it is. It's kind of like ready to pop. Is that how they lay eggs? I don't, or lay eggs, I suppose. Yes, I don't quite know. So a lot of this is deciding to what degree is the apivar or max, the mite away quick strips, effective in the hives. I haven't had good success, particularly. There's some thoughts that perhaps the the packages that I've received here, sometimes I have my own, but these packages are resistant to the treatments. Totally seems possible. I took a mite and stuck her on a brand new Apivar strip just to see, because I don't understand how this works. Is it like, does the bee have to get that? Anyways, this mite has been on here. I just looked a minute ago, and I think she's been on this, not always upside down. She flips around particularly, for particularly maybe 4 or 5 hours. Seems fine to me. I don't know how that stuff works. So, kind of concerning. And I found other things too, like this is a weird little algae thing, which I don't know what it is. It's could have been a dead larva already, or a living one which is getting some disease. It appeared to be dead. It wasn't moving. And it all seems to be mites, of course. Everybody says so. Of course, the concern is to what degree, in my case, what degree these diseases or the mites particularly might be spreading to other hives. Don't know. I think I need to do some testing, certainly, of some of the other possibilities. There's a limited number of diseases and viruses and bacteria that could be. The mites are obviously a big part of this. I don't know. And this is maybe the best, or most ominous photograph I took of a mite on creeping out, and she creeps all over the place, from a opened cell that was opened by bees. Anyways, lots of questions. Thanks very much for watching this video and seeing these images. Thank you.